While most of us head to work every day with little to no risk, there are those that literally put their lives on the line every single day in order to get a paycheck. Some of these jobs pay less than others that sit behind a desk all day. It can make you wonder, why do these people do what they do? Today we look at the top 5 most dangerous jobs in the world.
Number 5.
Depending on the region where you work, the professional fishing industry can be one of the most dangerous on Earth. Many thousands of workers are subjected to the ferocity of weather and the ocean each year to provide one of the major food sources. With that comes huge risks. The Alaskan fishing industry, for example, provides 95% of the salmon supply in the United States alone. It is hugely important to the state's economy, making up almost 50% of its private sector employment. It's tough work and involves hauling up huge nets or cages that weigh several hundred pounds, and when the weather's being less than helpful, this can be far more energy draining. The geographical location around Alaska, along with the freezing cold waters, means that any injuries or accidents are generally more severe. In 2008 alone, for example, 128 people for every 100,000 workers died. This figure is 26 times higher than the national average and made up a third of all occupational deaths in Alaska that year. Across the entire industry throughout the country, the fatality rate is slightly lower at 77.4 per 100,000 workers. The most common causes are drowning, collisions, falling on slippery decks, malfunctioning equipment, and being struck by unexpected waves.
Number 4.
Steel is one of the most important materials in the construction industry. It provides a strong foundation that structures can be built around. Those that work with steel and iron are in an extremely dangerous industry, with the latest statistics showing there's a fatality rate of 23.6 per 100,000 workers. There are dangers in every stage of the production and construction process. From the start, there are chemicals and airborne toxins that are present in steel mills that, if not handled correctly, can lead to burns, blindness, and lung damage. Then there are the harsh noises at mills and construction sites that can contribute to hearing loss. You also have the vibrations from the power tools that can cause nerve damage and chronic pain. It's the heavy machinery and the height at which steel construction workers perform their roles that pose the greatest risk though. No matter how careful someone is, there's always the chance they may be struck by a vehicle or a machine. These dangers get worse when you take into account deteriorating equipment, cutting corners to save time, failing safety mechanisms, and operator error. The number one risk of death to steelworkers comes from slips, trips and falls, particularly in environments where walkways are obstructed, the floor is uneven, and when it's slippery after rain. It's very easy to lose your footing and have very little chance of stopping yourself from falling a great distance. Despite these dangers, the appeal of this as a career isn't falling, and the industry is projected to continue growing for at least the next decade. Safety procedures have been shown to successfully reduce the number of serious incidents, but due to the nature of the work, it will never be a role that's risk-free.
Number 3.
Big business and industry relies on truck drivers in order to keep their operations running smoothly. Typically, it involves working grueling hours and spending extended periods away from home. They keep goods and supplies moving from warehouses and ports to where they're needed, and without them, life as we know it would soon grind to a halt. Surprisingly, for a career that we're also reliant upon, truck drivers around the world have found themselves facing tougher working conditions with far fewer facilities available to them. Some places have even prevented them from resting in or near their premises. Our expectation for packages to arrive quicker than ever before further increases the pressure on these drivers. The result is increasingly wary workers in control of huge vehicles. It's no surprise then that things occasionally end in tragedy. Every time a truck driver starts work, they're putting their lives at risk. In the United States, driver fatalities account for the largest number of deaths of any group of workers, with an average of 918 per year. This equates to a figure of 26 deaths per 100,000 drivers. Of course, the main cause of these are road traffic accidents, because if you're behind the wheel of a multi-ton truck that's involved in an accident, your chances of being severely injured increase substantially. If they've been transporting highly valuable items, they're also targeted by criminals, who have very little regard for safety when they're focused on a massive payday. A lot of these dangers are the reason why truck drivers in many countries have resorted to protesting and striking. This is not necessarily because they feel the risk can be reduced, but they feel they deserve the respect of the rest of society because of the important roles that they play.
Number 2.
In East Java, Indonesia, there's one of the most stunning natural formations you'll find anywhere on Earth. The Ijen volcano complex has been active for many thousands of years, and in this volcano itself, there's a 0.62 mile or 1 kilometer wide acidic crater that's becoming world famous. It's not just because of its stunning appearance, but because when night falls, the area is lit up by blue fire and lava. The reason why it takes on this incredible colour is because of all the minerals that are present, and this has led to an opportunity. There's an active vent near the edge of the lake, and the gases are sent through a series of ceramic pipes that cause them to cool and release molten sulphur that turns yellow as it solidifies. The sulphur is useful to a number of different industries, and at the volcano there are 200 miners who are responsible for climbing up to the lake each morning and chipping away at the huge chunks of sulphur. They then carry it back down to be processed. These workers will carry up to 198 pounds or 90 kilograms of material from the deposits up to the volcano rim, which is a 980 foot or 300 meter climb, and then 1.9 miles or 3 kilometers down the mountain for it to be weighed. Most of the miners will do this twice a day, and while they can make a competitive salary for the region around $13 per day, there are huge risks involved. Occasionally they may lose their footing and either seriously injure themselves or even fall into the acidic lake. The fact that very few workers are able to provide safety equipment for themselves means that they breathe in huge volumes of noxious gas. It is quite common as a result for workers to develop breathing conditions and cancers that are directly linked to their exposure to the environment, and anyone that's done the job for longer than a year has a significantly lower life expectancy.
Number 1.
Landmines are the most indiscriminate and cruel weapons of war. Rather than being used to specifically target the enemy, they're triggered by anyone who's unfortunate enough to tread on one. While this may arguably be justified in a time of war to protect certain areas, the biggest problem is that they remain active long after the fighting has ended. One of the largest minefields in the world is known as K5, and it runs almost the entire length of the border between Thailand and Cambodia. Frighteningly, it's believed to contain as many as 2 million landmines, which is a result of fighting in the 1960s and 70s. It's now the job of the international organisations to try and clear them to reduce the risk to local farmers falling victim to them. No matter how well trained someone is in finding and deactivating them, the range of different devices that were buried there, as well as their age, means that they act unpredictably. Because of this, it's an incredibly dangerous job. Fatalities are thankfully rare but not unheard of, but injuries such as shrapnel wounds and the loss of hands, feet or limbs are quite common.
Check out one of our other amazing videos.